What's up, guys? You are watching Fight Feed, and we are finally back in Dana White Contender Series season number 9, coming up here on August 12th to kick us off next Tuesday. So what you're going to see here is I'm going to break down all of the Dana White's Contender Series fights, similar to how I break down all of the UFC fight nights, all of the UFC pay-per-view cards, just breaking all of these down because I am a huge fan of Dana White's Contender Series. And I figured it would be helpful for any of you who are looking to see who might win. And I don't know if you guys will be betting on these, but I do know that in previous years, Contender Series is huge for underdogs to hit. So hopefully this is helpful for you guys. I'm going to break down the entire card that's coming up this Tuesday on August 12th and give you guys my picks and predictions for the full card. So let's go ahead and dive in. The first fight on the card, even though I don't know if this is actually the first fight, just take it for what you will. The bout order might be switched up a little bit. Regardless, Chris Evert versus Yuri Panferov. So taking a look at Chris Evert, he's 31 years old. He actually turns 32 on September 6th, which is not too long after he's fighting here. 6'1" with a 78-inch reach. Now, I've seen some footage of him being 6'3", and then some at 6'1". Regardless, he's got a long reach if he is 6'1". And then he's 185 pounds, obviously, but he actually has also fought at light heavyweight, which is something that I also noticed in his tape. 7-0 record, has not fought in the UFC. If you guys remember or know this, Chris was actually scheduled to fight on the International Fight Week card, but he could not make weight in time, so he had to pull out. So take that for what you will. He's 185. Maybe he has trouble making that weight. I don't know. Yuri Panferov, on the other hand, 28 years old, 6'1" with a 72.5-inch reach, 8-1 record, 0-1 in the UFC. And the reason I say that here, an 0-1 record in the UFC on this series, guys, is because he lost in Contender Series. And the reason I have 0-1 in UFC, usually if you guys have watched my other picks videos, I don't count Contender Series fights as UFC XP. But in this situation, when we're looking at Contender Series fights specifically, I do count being there at least once. So calling that out just so you guys know. Taking a look at the styles for this fight. So Chris Evert is a very, very good striker, got great hands. 72% of his wins are by knockout. Definitely more fluid on the feet, has good boxing, also switches stances a bit. Weaknesses that I called out is just obviously he had issues with that weight cut that we know about, but I know he also got that call on very short notice. So not something that we necessarily need to write home about there, but it could be a factor when you're thinking about these fights. Now, Panferov, on the other hand, he's got a good mix of skills. 63% of his wins are by submission. 38% of his wins are by KO, which means he's got a 100% finish rate. Now, Yuri Panferov also fought on Contender Series before. He actually lost to Torres Finney, but regardless, he has that experience of being at the Contender Series. Momentum check for these guys. Chris Evert's on a 7-fight win streak. Yuri Panferov is on a 2-fight win streak. Chris Evert last fought on January 12th, 2025, and Panferov fought on November 9th, 2024. Taking a look at their last opponents, guys, I'm not going to write home about who their opponents' names are. You guys can look them up on your own if you'd like, just because I don't know all of these opponents. The one thing I will call out, though, is like I've already said, Yuri Panferov fought Torres Finney on Contender Series and lost, so that's his only L on his record. But what I did include here, guys, is the record of their opponents, so you could get an idea, right? So Chris Evert's last opponent was 5-0. His opponent before that, 5-2. His opponent before that, 11-9. So that's the first guy that's got a significant amount of professional MMA experience. And then the guy before that was only 3-0. Now, Panferov, on the other hand, his last opponent, 11-6. The opponent before that, 12-10. The opponent before that, 6-0, and then the opponent before that, 4-4. So I think if you're looking at that collectively, Panferov's definitely got a better strength of schedule in terms of his opponents having more experience. So that's just another thing to consider when you're picking these fights. The intangibles and X factors, guys, these are not going to be super important here on Contender Series, because when I say pressure question mark, they all have a ton of pressure going into this. They're going to want to get a win. Panferov, especially given that he's had that experience before and lost, he's going to want to go in there and get a win. So that's something to call out for both guys. What I called out for Evert is he's not fought a ton of guys, and he's also not, like, the guys he has fought don't have a ton of experience. So that is just something to call out on the side of Evert. I will say Evert does, in his fights, he's been taken down and is very quick to get back to his feet. Seems to be good at basically just his stand-up seems to be very good at standing up very quickly, similar to how Derek Lewis does it, just get up. He has that sort of style when he's been taken down in his fights. So that's just something to call out there. Guys, my pick is Evert in this fight, but I will say this does feel like Panferov, because Evert hasn't been tested too much in the grappling realm, it could be that although I've seen him get up from the ground quite a bit and quickly, it could be that he just wasn't going up against a grappler or someone with the type of skills that Panferov might bring to the table. So consider that. I do think I've had like different moments where I could see Evert winning by KO, but then I've also had thoughts of like Panferov being able to like get out of the way of some of these shots and get on his back and actually choke him out. So it really is a toss up here. I'm thinking that if we're going to apply the fact that Evert's shown good defense on the ground and ability to get up, assuming that translates and that the power and the strength from Panferov isn't, more than what Evert's used to, I think Evert should be able to stand up should he get taken down and then land some of those KO shots that we know he can land. So that is where I'm going in this fight. But like I said, it is kind of a toss-up, so just go with your gut feeling on that one. 3 out of 5 confidence on this. The next fight on the card, we've got Baysangur Sursakayev versus Murtaza Talha. So Sursakayev, guys, this guy, I actually wasn't going to pick him. I had Talha picked, and then I saw that Surkayev actually trains and is friends with Khamzat Chimaev. He's from Chechnya. I've seen his highlights. He looks good, but I just think that the thing that I had questioned is in his professional career thus far, he just doesn't have a lot of grappling highlights in his MMA record. Like if you go watch some of his wins, they're pretty quick and it's usually on the feet, not anything where he's been like tested on the ground. So I was worried that he might not have that ground game. And Talha's obviously got that style where he'll get guys to the ground and pound them out. With that, Sursakayev is 24 years old, 6 foot tall. His reach is not listed on Tapology or anywhere else that I can find. He's 8-0, no record in the UFC. And then Talha is 29 years old, 6 feet tall, 74.5-inch reach, 7-1 record in the UFC. The styles for this fight, so Sursakayev is definitely a striker. Like most of his wins are on the feet. 88% of his wins are by KO. He's got 7 of his 8 wins by KO. So just keeping that in mind, I think he has 1 decision, if I'm not mistaken. He is going to be looking to stay on the feet and keep this in boxing range where he can land his nice crispy combos on the feet. Talha, on the other hand, is a finisher, 100% finish rate. He really has a mixed bag of grappling and striking. He really will likely try to get this one down to the ground where he can then land some ground and pound and also maybe get him in a submission is what I think Talha is going to be looking for. The momentum check for both guys. So Sursakayev's 8-fight win streak. He last fought February 21st, 2025. His last 4 opponents, 4-1, 8-3, 4-6, 6-0. So not the greatest of records, but obviously there's been a couple guys who have significant experience compared to what he has. Talha, on the other hand, 1-fight win streak. He last fought on February 28, 2025. And I did write down his opponent's names, but that's because I did his earlier this week. The only thing I'm going to call for I'm not going to call out his opponent's names here other than Bellato. He did lose on Contender Series, as I mentioned. Or no, I didn't mention this. He lost on Contender Series previously, so he does have 1 fight in the UFC, but it was on Contender Series, and he got starched out by Bellato. But it was a good fight. I think he definitely gassed in that fight, and also that was a light heavyweight fight, and he is, from what I can see, more of a fighter that is fighting at middleweight. One thing to call out about Sursakayev, guys, he has several fights on his professional record at welterweight. So he might be like noticeably smaller in the cage compared to that of Talha. Intangibles and X factors, obviously they both have pressure. Neither one of them is a home fighter. They're both from Russia. Some red flags, not really like major red flags here for these guys. I would say like Talha had a pretty long layoff between when he got KO'd by Bellato and his last fight, but he did go back out there and starch his opponent out. So good on him. But he also has that Contender Series experience. Now, the only other variable that I called out for Sursakayev is he has several fights at welterweight. So keep that in mind when you're picking here, guys, because there could be a significant size disadvantage, especially if Murtaza's used to fighting with bigger guys. He could have that ability to maybe ragdoll Sursakayev, but given that Sursakayev is training with Khamzat Chimaev, has pictures of them training, I am not too worried about his ability to shuck off takedowns, and that is actually why I ended up picking Sursakayev in this fight. Given that Chimaev is one of the strongest grapplers we've ever seen in the octagon, that's going to give him a huge advantage of being able to shuck off takedowns from anybody. But then also stay standing on the feet so he can land his own shots. I see him getting a knockout here, 3 out of 5 confidence. The next fight on the card, we've got Jimmy Drago versus Ty Miller. Jimmy Drago is like Ivan Drago, right? If he dies, he dies. 30 years old, 5'11". His reach is not listed, 170 pounds, 7-2 record. Now Ty Miller, on the other hand, 25 years old, 6'2" with a 75.5-inch reach. It's a decent size reach there because 72 is 6 feet, 3.5. He's got like a 3.5, but he's 6'2", 64. 1.5 ape index there for him. Not too shabby. 5-0 record. Obviously hasn't fought in the UFC. Styles makes fights, guys. Let's look at this now. We've got Jimmy Drago. What I put here is that there's not a lot of tape on him. And the tape that I did see was pretty low quality, unfortunately. But what I was able to see is that he does have pretty strong hands, pretty powerful hands, the ability to mix up the grappling as well in between strikes. 56% of his wins by KO. I will say, though, I when I was watching the tape, it could just be the low quality, but his striking didn't look like abnormally fast or anything. I think it obviously there's power behind his shots, but I don't think it was like lightning speed fast. Now, Ty Miller, on the other hand, strengths for him. He has very crispy boxing. He actually has some professional boxing matches under his record as well. Roughly 50% of his wins are by KO or decision, but I think he is tending to keep these fights standing on the feet and tries to obviously just win with his boxing. There's not a lot of tape on Ty Miller either, and I just don't know what his grappling level is. So that is just something that I have to call out. I could not really find any solid footage of him like being in certain grappling exchanges, especially against like experienced grapplers. So that's just something to keep in mind because Drago does come with that type of style sometimes. Momentum check. Drago's on a 3-fight win streak, last fought on March 14, 2025. Believe it or not, UFC did great matchmaking here. Both these guys are coming off of a no contest, so that's hilarious. Drago's definitely got more seasoned experience or more seasoned opponents under his belt. His last fight was a no contest, but his opponent was 14-9. Fight before that, 5-0. Fight before that, 4-1. Fight before that, 4-0. So he won all of those matchups, though. Now looking at Ty Miller, his no contest that happened back in December, so December 4th, 2024. No contest, but 4-1 record for his opponent. The guy before that is 4-2. Before that, 3-3. And before that, 1-0. Intangibles and X factors. So like I said, again, the one thing to call out about Drago is just there's not a lot of footage for him. But I do think after seeing the speed that Ty Miller brings, I feel like Drago could have issues with that speed, especially on the feet from Ty Miller. Now, on the flip side, Ty Miller, the only thing that I called out is I just don't have anything really to reference in terms of what his grappling ability is. So I don't know if he'll be able to shuck off some of that ground game that Drago might mix in. Ultimately, guys, I had to go with Ty Miller in this one. I think that after watching some of his highlights, I was very impressed to see one of his recent KOs that he's gotten. It was a left hook to a right straight, and it was very fast the way he threw it, very technical. Had to wait for slow-mo on the replay to actually see what he landed with. That's how quick it was. I feel like that type of speed on the feet is going to be a problem for anybody. but also has that size where he's 6'2" in a welterweight division. That's going to play very well for him, I think, especially on the feet. So I could see him probably getting a KO in this fight. But like I said, I don't have enough tape on him either to understand what his grappling level is. So you could also see Jimmy Drago mix in that grappling and maybe even get a win himself. So we shall see what happens. The next fight on the card, we got Radley De Silva versus George Mangos. So taking a look at De Silva, 30 years old, 5'10", no reach listed for whatever goddamn reason, 7-1 record. And then George Mangos, 21 years old, 5'10", 70.9 inches, 7-0 record overall. Styles for this fight. So De Silva, I think it just seems to be the more seasoned guy, in my opinion. Just 43% of his wins by sub, 43% of his wins by decision. He's kind of had more of that experience going the distance, if you will. I would say for him, some strengths that I saw, has very good movement on the feet, very good at switching stances and landing shots, had some crazy spinning kicks and spinning techniques. Some weaknesses, though, that I called out about that is just, I think, in some of his fights, when he's doing those spinning techniques, he sometimes can catch himself in a bad spot. And I don't think he's going to want to have that happen against a guy like Mangos, who's got a 100% finish rate. So taking a look at him, 71% of his wins by submission, 28% of his wins by KO. Overall, he's got a 100% finish rate. Momentum check. So both guys are 7-fight win streaks here. De Silva last fought on January 23rd, 2025. He actually missed weight for a title bout, which I guess on the regional scene, you get to keep the title still. His last fight, his opponent was 19-9. Fight before that, 6-0. Fight before that, 11-5. Fight before that, 5-1. Mangos, obviously, as I mentioned, 7-fight win streak. Last fought March 1st, 2025. His last 4 opponents, 4-2, 10-2, 8-2, and 13-5. So I think they're both, pretty. They've got some. I think they've both gone in there with guys that have a decent amount of experience. Intangibles and X factors. Taking a look at De Silva, for both these guys, there's really no red flags to call out. Honestly, both of them are defending champs from the organizations they're currently in. So just keep that in mind, I guess. Ultimately, guys, I did go with De Silva here. Now, I'm going with De Silva because I feel like I saw his ability on the feet, his ability to mix in certain strikes. Still also he has a very good defensive grappling game, and he's able to scramble up to his feet and get out of certain takedowns quite a bit. He had a few fights where people were trying to, press that type of game on him. He was able to get out of it and impose his will and find the win. So those things are really good. Now, George Mangos seems to be very good as well. The only thing I can't figure out with George Mangos, just based on the footage, is the size, right? Like for some reason it says he's 5'10", but I just feel like in every fight I've seen him in, at least the footage I was able to find, he seems to be either smaller or like the exact same size as opponents. Whereas De Silva might be a true 5'10"er who's like noticeably bigger than all of his opponents that I've seen. So that is the one thing that I just feel like there's going to be a size disadvantage here, but we could, be surprised on the night of. Ultimately, I think De Silva he impressed me more with his finishing ability in terms of how he's able to find certain shots on the feet. But Mangos, like I said, is still so skilled. He probably could find a way to get De Silva down and maybe even latch up a choke. This is just that typical situation with Contender Series. We just don't know until we know. These two guys are, fighting people that are outside of the UFC right now. So it's like, we don't know the level of talent really until they get in there and meet one another. I see this one going to decision, but I could be dead wrong there. I'm not super confident that De Silva will even get the win, to be honest. I think that both guys are very good, and it really is a toss-up, but I'm going De Silva if I have to make that pick. So take it for what it's worth, 2 out of 5 confidence. Finally, the main event of the evening, guys. We've got Ilian Bouafia versus Neemias Santana. So Bouafia is 28 years old, 6'5", 77-inch reach, 6-0 record. Santana, on the other hand, 27, 6'2", 76-inch reach, 7-2 record. The styles for this fight. So Bouafia is 83% of his wins by KO. He's very quick and light on the feet. Also was very impressed by his ability to scramble. In one of his fights, a guy shot for a takedown. He's able to scramble and get the guy's back and then just ground and pounds him in round 1. So very good ground and pound as well. Santana, on the other hand, 86% of his wins by KO. Very fluid stance switching from him. He does this weird marauder technique where at a certain point when he just stops respecting his opponent, he literally walks forward like he's trying to catch his son who's running away from him so he can fucking hit him with the belt. Like, that's the type of walk he does towards his opponents. Hands down. Some weaknesses is actually, I called out some questionable grappling just because he has been submitted in the past. So I don't know if he's a very good grappler based on that. Momentum check for these guys. Bouafia, 6-fight win streak, last fought on Valentine's Day. His previous opponents 6-3, 5-2, 4-1, 3-1. And then on the side of Santana, 3-fight win streak, last fought March 28, 2025. His last 4 fights, 5-0, 8-3, 4-0, 0-0. The draw that he has on his record for the 4-0, he actually ended up rematching that opponent in his last fight where he got a KO. So intangibles and X factors. So really nothing to call out here, guys. I think that Bouafia is going to have that size advantage here. He's 6'5" to 6'3". One red flag that I called out for Santana, when I did some digging on his professional record, he has not fought a guy nearly as tall as Bouafia. He did fight a guy that was 6'3", but this is like you're adding another 2 inches on top of that. So he just has not fought a guy that's that big yet in his career, at least as a pro. And actually, it's a pretty staggering result when I looked at other opponents of his. Most of them are either 6 feet or shorter, which means, that 6'5" could be a big, tall drink of water for him to deal with. But we'll have to see what happens. I am going Bois. However, guys, I'm not very confident because I've leaned back and forth. I was leaning actually picking Santana for a long time because Santana just seems like he has that style where if you can't knock him out, he's just going to walk you down until he finds that kill shot. Has power in his hands as well. But Bouafia, because he was so quick and agile, I feel like he will have that ability to mix it up on the feet and mix in the grappling if he needs to. He seems to be very quick and agile. Like, will have that ability to wrap around and get the back. Like, the way that he was able to chain his way into getting his one opponent's back when he got the ground and pound, that was very impressive. And I think that type of speed is going to be super helpful in the light heavyweight division because I do see that Santana does have a bit of plottiness to him. Like, he can be good at switching stances fluidly, but he does have a bit of that plottiness. And I don't think that plottiness is going to do well against a guy like Bouafia, who seems to be very electric on the feet, always moving rapidly side to side. So I feel like that's going to help Bouafia ultimately get the win. I could see him getting a KO here, but like I said, it's not super confident on this one. So my pick would be KO, but you could even go decision. And then if you're feeling like Bouafia could be shut down by Santana, I would say go Santana because I have kind of been back and forth on this one. Ultimately, final pick is Bouafia. So you guys let me know what you think. Comment below if you guys are excited about Contender Series, and also comment below who you have picked for Contender Series Week 1. Thank you guys so much for watching Fight Feed. Make sure you subscribe and so you can stay tuned to all my upcoming content, whether it be other MMA prediction videos, Dana White's Contender Series prediction videos, just the whole gamut of MMA content that you can imagine is coming on this channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you all in the next one.